The Bells of St. Clete's is the 24th and penultimate episode of the third season of Cheers, directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows, and we will have spoilers from now as I go through quite a few things. I made a lot of notes for this one, and I absolutely adored this episode. Every character gets a chance to shine, apart from Coach, of course. Nicholas Colasanto is unfortunately not in this episode. We don't have much of Coach left, but I will talk more about that in the next episode. But for now, The Bells of St. Clete's, really thoroughly enjoyed it. So everything is pretty much chronological as far as my thoughts go. And it starts off with Norm walking into the bar and he gets his solitary Norm from Sam, which was adorable. And Norm is in the bar early, and Sam suggests things Norm can do, and he keeps shooting them down. And it's just good fun. It's a really nice, fun way to start things off. Sometimes the opening is connecting to things later on in the episode. Sometimes it's just separate like this, and it works really well. We then get one of the subplots introduced with a little bit of a mystery, as Cliff has a letter that he is saying is from a woman he had a brief relationship with back in Florida. And I have some nice feelings about what ultimately happens with that part of the narrative, but I'll get to that when we get there chronologically. And then the main narrative kicks in as Carla sees this customer and gasps. And she reveals that this woman, played by Camila Ashland, is Drusilla Dimeglio, who was once the head at the St. Clete's girls' school that Carla used to go to. And apparently this head teacher was awful to her. And she's shocked that it's her, but also excited because finally, even though it's been 20 years, she can get her revenge on this woman. And again, I will come back to that when we get there chronologically, but I really enjoyed Carla in this episode. It's been a little while since Carla's had the chance to shine in her own right. For the past few episodes, she's really just been providing comedy with a lot of, dry lines and responses and a lot of mean things that she says about other characters. So it's nice that she's finally, after quite a few episodes, got a story that really focuses on her. As I said, all of the characters, aside from Coach, get a chance to shine here, and that includes Diane and Frasier. And I really like how they're able to continue keeping them as part of the narrative, even though they're not at Cheers. And Diane has phoned Sam to ask for advice on something hot that she can drink because they have no heating. And we have this clip of Frasier skiing, and then Diane accidentally wallops him with the skis. The timing was brilliant. And there's a bit of tension between Diane and Frasier. Not so much in this clip, but later on when Diane phones Sam up again. And we have a moment where they're calling each other pet names, but with a sense of tension. And Frasier calls her his spoiled little conniving treasure. And it's clear that their relationship maybe isn't surviving as well as one might think it would while they're in Europe. And the fact that Diane is also speaking with Sam in those scenes is very telling and very interesting, but I'll say no more about that for now. Going back to Cheers, we have Carla gathering her friends from St. Clete's, but they don't really care about the fact that this is somebody from the past, that this is Dimeglio. They also don't necessarily believe that it's her. And at this point, it's not very clear whether it is or not, but Carla is determined to get revenge, and she sends her friends behind the bar, which is quite funny with Sam's response to that, but also kind of weird to see somebody else behind the bar. And certainly how that part of the narrative is playing out is very unpredictable and remains unpredictable until the last second. And again, I will come back to that in a bit. But first, we go back to Cliff and this letter. And Norm and Sam get hold of one of his letters, and it turns out it's not from a woman Cliff had a relationship with, but from somebody who owned the motel where Cliff seemed to steal, well, everything, actually, which was quite bizarre, certainly very funny. But then we also have one of the sweetest moments ever, and we get a lot of focus on the supporting cast in this one, actually. The camera does cut to Tom and Alan and the other regular extras, quite frequently, not in a bad way, but just as something as a point of observation. And they're all desperate to hear what this romantic liaison has to say. And Norm, feeling guilty for reading the letter, decides to read out the letter but making it up. And it's funny because Norm is trying to make up this romantic letter, but it's very sweet that he's done this so Cliff can save face. And I thought that that was really beautiful and really moving. I love Cliff and Norm's friendship. It's one of my many favorite things about Cheers. And then the rest of the episode focuses on Carla. We have Carla playing the piano, which doesn't happen that often, both in terms of Carla and just in general. I wish people played the piano more in Cheers. I rather enjoyed it. And it seems like she's letting everything go. But then the woman comes back for her wallet. And of course, Carla's not willing to hand over the wallet until she confirms it's the right person. It's the perfect opportunity to ask if it is Dimeglio. And I thought it was a very clever, somewhat straightforward, but also very clever way of revealing that this was Dimeglio. And surprisingly, they actually start to bond and have a great time together. And then in the very last second, in this incredible reveal, Dimeglio turns around. We're viewing her left profile, and then as she turns around to walk back into the pool room, we see half of her head shaved. And I just think it was a roller coaster with Carla and the character of Dimeglio, and it was just beautifully done. Really well done, funny, helped to show Carla that actually she could get over the past, kind of. She maybe had to take some action to begin with, but ultimately she was able to get on with this woman. And I think there's a nice lesson there if you want to read it. Very funny episode, very, very entertaining, but with some moving moments as well. And I'll be sad when season 3 is over, just one more episode left. Things change in season 4 in multiple ways, but more on that when we get there. But for now, The Bells of St. Clete's, as the penultimate episode of season 3, is pretty awesome.